Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Greg Fox with West 2 News and West.com, and this is part of our Commitment 2026 series of debates. Today, we are talking with the Democratic candidates in Congress, District 11. We're going to show you the map of that district so you have a general idea of where this is. It stretches from Sumter and Lake counties and the villages east to Apopka in Orange County and down to Walt Disney World, also pushing east to include Universal Studios in Orlando. Now, this is an open seat because Republican Dan Webster is retiring after many, many years in Congress and state politics. All three of the Democratic candidates who hope to go to the general election are here with us today. We have James Pericola, Royal Webster, and Dan Williams, and we appreciate you joining us today so that you can share your views, talk to the voters, and give us an idea of what your vision would be if you were elected to Congress District 11. We're going to begin with a 1-minute opening statement, and for that, we're going to go first to Mr. Webster.
Hello, my name is Royal Webster, and I am a Congressional District 11 candidate for the Democratic Party. I'm a veteran, I'm a teacher, I'm a union member, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a grandfather. The reason I chose to serve and run for this office is because my entire life has been about serving. I came in after I graduated high school into the military. I was a military intelligence analyst, and then after my service to the Army, I became a teacher. I believe that this district has gone neglected for many years. Congressman Webster, Daniel Webster, was an absentee congressman for many years. He never held town hall meetings. He never participated when called upon. He did serve honorably for many years, but I think it just got away from him. I'm here to serve the people. I'm here to finish the job that I started 5 months ago.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Pericola, 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Greg. I grew up on West TV and watching you my whole life, so it's a
I
privilege.
hate when people tell me
privilege
that,
to
but
be
no,
here.
I know you mean it in the best sense, so thanks very much.
And I do. This is deeply personal for me. For the past year, I've spent my aging mom navigate a broken healthcare system, a system that's too expensive, too confusing, and fails the people who need it most. I'm also here on behalf of my brother. I never thought I'd say a nice thing about my big brother, but he, like millions of Americans, have been tossed off the healthcare system, the Affordable Care Act, through the cuts by the Trump administration. Everything in this country is too expensive. Gas is too expensive, food is too expensive, insurance is too expensive, all as we send billions overseas in wars we were promised we wouldn't have to fight. And all of this is due to the failed policies of the Trump administration. Americans deserve better than what we're getting. Our veterans certainly deserve better and the respect, dignity, and security that they're entitled to. Our seniors deserve the full promise of what this country is and the benefits they've paid into our Social Security and Medicare systems. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we're going to be touching on many of the topics you brought up. Mr. Williams, 1 minute to you, please.
Hi, my name is Dan Williams, and I've been an educator right here in Central Florida for over 20 years now. I currently teach at Full Sail University, where I teach web design and development. My background is in engineering, so I come at everything with an educational side of things and a technical side of things. And my main platform for my campaign is something that's going to be brand new, that's never been tried at a federal level before. It's called direct democracy. The main idea is very simple. For every major law or bill I try to pass up in DC, I'll make an educational video that helps explain that law. Exactly what happens to vote yes and exactly what happens to vote no, using only facts instead of any kind of political party messaging. I'll also give my opinion at the end about what I think is best for our district. After that, we're going to open it up to a district-wide vote, utilizing the Digital Democracy Project, which is also based right here in Central Florida. Whatever the majority opinion is, will be my direct vote in DC, because I'm trying to put the power back directly in the hands of the people, instead of assuming that one person could speak for 800,000 of us without ever asking our opinion. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you for your opening statements. I want to talk about the largest concentrated voting base that's in District 11. Altogether now, it's the villages, okay? We have a huge pocket of very active voters. They have a median age of 74 years. Their two main concerns are Social Security and Medicare, and I'd be interested in knowing, we'll start with Mr. Williams, what is your plan to ensure that those safety nets remain in place, and in the case of perhaps Medicare, as Mr. Pericola indicated, maybe improve where they are now?
Thank you so much. I do believe that we have to make sure that Social Security is going to exist in a couple of years. And the way we're going to do that is by raising that tax cap. Right now we're based, our stop level is $184,500. And then we all pay 6.2% on that. What we need to do is we need to raise that so we can actually make sure that the people that are making more money pay their fair share. As far as Medicaid, I do believe in Medicare for all. And I believe we need to make steps in order to make sure that everyone has health care.
All right, thank you. Same question, Mr. Webster, on Social Security and Medicare.
I agree 100% with Dan about Social Security. The cap needs to be raised from 184,500. It is not fair that people making $2 million pay the same amount. For Medicare, I'm very fortunate. I have never paid a medical bill in my life because of the VA. I believe that Medicare for all is not about money, it's about priorities and choice. We find money for everything, like James mentioned on the war that's going on right now. If we can find $2 billion a day, we can find more money for Medicare for all. Thank you.
All right, and do you want to say anything about Social Security? What are your thoughts on that? Are you concerned
we need to raise the cap on Social Security.
You do need to raise the cap, okay.
Yes.
And your thoughts on COLAs, because right now they're discussing the COLA for the coming year.
So the cost of living allowance that is being given does not keep up with inflation. Our inflation right now is over 4%, and we need to make sure that the COLAs are above that, just to be able to give everybody a fair chance.
All right, fair enough. Mr. Paracola on Social Security and Medicare.
Well, one, and I hope they hear us in the villages, because I know they love their signs and flags, but they are coming for your Social Security and Medicare. Republicans swore they wouldn't touch Medicaid, and they gutted it over $1 trillion, and that's our most vulnerable citizens, children, those with special needs, people who need elder care, like my mother, people that are handicapped, like my grandmother, my late grandmother. These are the people that we took $1 trillion from. So nobody is immune, and people need to be aware, and they need to be prepared for it. And part of that is we need to strengthen Social Security and Medicare. We need to include vision, dental, and hearing as well. When you talk to folks, you know, we say that there's a $2.3 trillion deficit, and what can we do about it? They were just up asking Congress the other day for $1.5 trillion. I'm certain we need to reprioritize things in this country and make sure we always take care of our seniors.
All right, let's stick with Mr. Paracola for a second as we continue to talk about affordability, and not just for those who are in their senior years, their retirement years, but everybody else in Congress District 11 and across the state of Florida. We're looking at very high inflation. We just, as we're recording this particular debate, oil is nearing $100 a barrel, and of course the stock market is going down on that news. So I guess my question is, we all say the word affordability, but what are we going to do about it? What would you do about it if you're sent to Congress?
Affordability is about dignity. It's about having a fair shake in this country. It's how I grew up. We grew up, we were food insecure. That's not to embarrass my late father or my mother. It's just what millions of Americans are dealing with right now in Trump's America. As I've said, everything's too expensive. We need to put the teeth back in DOJ so they can break up some of these monopolistic practices that are occurring. That would be the first place I would start. And most important of all, we need to get Congress working again. Congress needs to vigorously and aggressively provide oversight of this administration and the corporations that are ripping off Floridians and Americans.
All right, Mr. Williams, same question. What is your plan? Maybe as you described it, what would be that explanation in a video you would bring to voters before you cast a vote?
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about affordability, usually we're talking about a giant thing, and we have to make sure we're breaking that down. So I teach computer coding, and one of the main things I teach my students is when a problem is too complex, you simplify it, and you start dividing it down into simpler things. So one of the quickest things that I would like to do is to give the government back collective bargaining power for drug prices. Because right now we have the Medicare Modernization Act of 2003, and that actually stopped the government from having that power. Now in 2022, We did give that a little bit back, but we're limited to 10 drugs a year. And so I'd like to take that cap off to make sure that we can actually bargain and make sure we collectively bargain for really good prices. Because what that does is it creates a price anchor that lowers the prices for absolutely everyone. And that's just one bill in my affordability plan. And I want to make simple bills that are easy to understand instead of these complex 500-page documents.
All right, thank you. Mr. Webster, same question. Where would you start if you get to D.C. when it comes to making things more affordable, not only for people in the district, but across the state?
So affordability affects different people different ways. But two things that we can do is, number one, stop this war. The oil prices, actually, I checked them when we came in. Brent oil was at $101 when I came in. Gas prices are going to soar. Why? Because now the Houthis are bombing tankers in the Red Sea. And that's going to even reduce more the amount of oil that's coming out of that area. We went into this war on a gut feeling, which is what the president said. Not with intelligence, but with a gut feeling. And it was the wrong gut feeling. That's number one, is get ourselves out of this war that has no easy way out of it. And number two, tariffs. The president announced that he's going to raise tariffs to Canada again on August 19th. And then he's going to lower on August 1st all the costs, remove tariffs, but only for a 2-year for prescriptions to 0. But then in 2 years, he's going to raise it to 100%. And then in 3 years, 200%. From overseas.
I want to leapfrog ahead since you brought it up, and we'll go back to talking about the dollars and cents of the challenges people are dealing with in the district. But since you mentioned it, you mentioned you're a veteran.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to give you another minute here. As a veteran, we've already seen at least 18 American lives taken, $100 billion spent, and that ticker is just continuing to go up. What to you is the most wrong about the way this war is being handled by the current administration?
We don't understand the culture, and we don't understand the mentality of the Iranian people. They fought 8 years against Iraq, lost over 500,000 people, and were invaded by Iraq. They didn't budge. Losing 3,500 people is nothing to them. They're going to continue. We've been told time and time again that their weapons have been disseminated, that they've been obliterated. That is not true. They continue to attack. I have friends in Kuwait that live there, and they get bombed almost every single night. The only time the ceasefire worked was from June 3rd to June 28th, and that happens to coincide when the Iranian soccer team was here in the United States. That's not by mistake. We need to pull out of here. It's a loss. We're not going to do it by just simply bombing. And the thought of invading Iran, that's 400,000 troops, and the loss of life would be enormous.
All right, Mr. Paracola, I'll give you a minute also. What's, in your view, what is the most wrong about how we're handling the situation there?
Everything about it, the way we started, the way we've continued, the way we've insulted our allies, the fact that we didn't build a coalition, the fact that Congress hasn't even been consulted, let alone engaged. It's an illegal and unconstitutional war, and it needs to stop. I think the real question is for the Republicans in this race, where will they disagree with the president? Where will they say enough is enough? Or as they compete for his blessing and endorsement, will they continue these same failed policies? There's a clear difference, and I think voters should understand that.
Mr. Williams, some would say this all started because we're helping Israel. Is that what we're doing, or do you see it differently?
Yeah, the problem with the war right now is communication. I believe no one understands why we're in this war right now. They change why we're in it every single time they talk. One day it's regime change, then it's not. Now we're trying to make sure that the Strait of Hormuz is actually open. It already was. So what are we gaining out of this? It's a war of choice, and I don't believe in war of choices. I believe war should be the very last option, and I believe diplomacy should take the advance for this.
All right. Let's get back to talking about the economy, which is the #1 issue, depending on which poll you read, but they all seem to say the economy and affordability. Let's talk about housing specifically. A couple of you touched on this briefly. Right now, the median income in Congress District 11 is $87,000 a year. That's the good news. The bad news is nearly 80,000 people are also living in poverty in District 11 and struggling to pay rent. If elected, what would you do to make housing more affordable and attainable? We'll go back to Mr. Webster.
So affordability, like I said, is across the board for different people. For housing, I've written a RISE Act, if you're familiar with universal basic income. And it's a hybrid of that. It allows people throughout the entire country to get a start at the poverty level, $16,000. Again, people will say that we can't afford that. We choose what we can afford and can't afford. And I believe that giving everyone starting at $16,000 is a step in the right direction. Now that will have a cap at $68,000. If you make $68,000, which is a median income, I believe, for the entire country, we would not go over that. But we need to do something to help, because the hardest workers are getting paid the least.
Mr. Pericola, housing, is it changes at HUD? Is it something else?
It's expensive to be poor. I think we should start out with that as a starting point, because if you've not lived that, as many Floridians in District 11 and across the state are, we need to make things less expensive for everybody. But in terms of housing, there was a good start. I mean, the president made clear he does not care. He would not sign. For the first time in a long time, Congress actually passed bipartisan legislation making it easier, getting rid of some of the red tape, doing things that makes it easier for first-time home buyers. But as is always the case with Congress, they have not funded the parts that matter the most. Instead, now we have an excess burden of how we implement this. So the first step I think we need to is to fully realize the legislation as a starting point and move from there.
All right, Mr. Williams, the first step for you on
I
housing.
would actually agree with James. I think we have a really good start with it, with the new bill that's being passed up there. It does a lot of good things, like making sure that single-family homes aren't bought by different corporations and then sold back or rented back to us. I also think we need to start looking at homeowners insurance, especially in Florida here. I think it's a really kind of a humongous thing that we need to put some caps on that and make sure we're putting some legislation together to protect every homeowner.
All right. Let's talk about the effects of immigration policy, especially in a district where there is certainly a lot of agricultural activity going on. Right now, 56% of the agricultural workforce in Congress District 11 is made up of migrant workers, but growers may be worried about the ability to maintain that workforce depending on the shifting policies of President Trump's immigration plans. What would you do to protect those workers and keep the industry staffed? Mr. Pericola.
We had comprehensive immigration reform, and the president chose to throw it out because it was more useful for him to use this as a political cudgel. I'm married to an immigrant. We are a country of immigrants, and I think we should have a pathway for immigrants that come here and do the right thing, especially the workers. And it's certainly unfair to single out the workers instead of the employers. The only time the president has ever responded on this issue are when some of his wealthy friends have said, I'm having a shortage here with employees. So I think we need a comprehensive look. I'll never defend the Biden policy on open borders. I think we need to do much better in this country. We need to have a system that provides enforcement in this country. But at the same time, what we're seeing is the most un-American thing I've ever seen in my life, where we have masked and untrained people terrorizing people on our streets, and that needs to end.
That's true. So what I didn't hear from you is, what would you do differently? Or what would be your first step?
I would start to
address
get
that? I'll give you 30 more seconds.
To restart the comprehensive negotiations, where there was a pathway, where there was exceptions for people that had been working here, people that had followed the rules, not changing the laws after the fact, which is what we're seeing now.
And the people on visas who are only coming over here certain times of the year, but some of them may not want to come because they feel like they're going to end up in jail, then they're going to end up getting deported. I think that's where the indecision is right now. They're afraid because they don't know about the stability of the situation. So again, can you address that for the growers who are like, am I going to get people this year?
I'd love to get in Donald Trump's head just so we could get him on the right path on things in this country, but it's all up to what he decides on a given day. So I can't answer what he's going to do to change that, but I can tell you what Congress can do, which is put safeguards in place.
Okay, Mr. Williams, go ahead. How are we going to at least provide assurances, practically speaking, to growers that depend on this workforce?
Yeah, I think we need to change what actually people are talking about right now, because a lot of people are talking about ICE because they're scared that they won't even leave their house for it. So one of the things we need to do is abolish ICE to start with. We need to replace it with a much more humane solution that we'll be able to create up in Congress. That's going to be the first step for it. I also believe we need to put some more technology and money towards the immigration process. Right now, it has so much red tape, there's so much paperwork that it it takes 20 years for people to become an immigrant into this country. I think that's too long. And so my plan of attack is to use my educational and technological background to make sure we update all those systems and give people a clear path to immigration.
All right. Mr. Webster, same question, and dealing with immigration policy while also trying to maintain the agricultural workforce in the district.
So I have signed the Abolish ICE pledge. We need to start over again and be humane and treat these people with dignity and give them due process. Put an N in front of it and put national immigration customs enforcement and make it nice. Just simply because we cannot continue to treat people this way. It's un-American. There is a bill currently being written up to be passed for a $12 billion farm aid, right? $12 billion. Why? Because the farmers can't get their stuff to people because we're short on workers. There was a program many years ago that started in 1942, the Bracero program, that went till 1964, and we brought in people on visas and worked, and then it got abolished in 1964. It didn't go any further than that. We need to work with the other countries and be able to bring in immigrant workers to work, and then they can go back. Or they can get a better pathway, as both of these have said, to legal citizenship.
All right, we're going to stick with Mr. Webster on this next one. This is a chance for me to get an understanding of your absolute #1 priority. So if elected, what would be the very first bill that you would file if you're sent to D.C.?
To me, those are two different questions. What would be my first bill and what my priorities would be. As a first bill, you want to win, right? You want a bill that is bipartisan. And I really believe that a bill on a moratorium on AI data centers nationally would be able to be passed. And people say that should be a state's issue. And the problem I have with that is that these corporations will leave that state and go to another state, and just a poorer state that needs the money. We need to find out what these AI centers, what the damage is to the environment, and what AI is about. Just a pause, 1 year, let's regroup and figure it out. Let's go fast, but not in a hurry. And that's a mistake people often make. They confuse being fast and going in a hurry. My priorities are affordability. Like I said, it crosses a wide range. Education. I believe literacy in this country needs to improve tenfold. And then veterans. Those are my 3 priorities.
All right, very good. Mr. Pericola, what would be the very first bill you would file?
To bring down costs, and the way to bring down costs is through healthcare. The first thing I would do is restore the draconian cuts that we saw to Medicaid. I would make sure that everybody understands that we are focused on Social Security and Medicare, and strengthen Medicare by allowing them to negotiate drug prices. We have price transparency. Nobody in this country should go broke because of medical debt, although it's the leading cause in this country. We have to do better by our seniors, and that's where I would start.
All right, Mr. Williams, your very first bill. I know you said you had a whole stack of them. All right, so go ahead. What's the first one?
Well, I would have said the same thing as Royal, because I do believe we need to focus on the AI and data centers more than anything else. And my technical background actually gives me a really good opportunity to make sure that we stay forward in technology without sacrificing our environmentality for our people. If I had to choose something else, it would probably be affordability related as well, and I probably would go with my drug plan for that one. Or I would actually, can I change that real quick? Because I would actually say digital rights privacy.
It's your 1 minute, go ahead.
Thank you. So because a lot of people don't understand what digital information privacy rights are, I think we're very far behind in America, and so we need to make sure that we address those so we can make sure our data is our own instead of selling it to the highest bidder.
All right, very good, thank you. I want to get a chance to ask you what kind of Democrat you are, okay? We've got like so many different flavors across the political spectrum. You have different kinds of traditional or conservative or MAGA Republicans. So in the Democrat realm, would you consider yourself left of center progressive, a traditional liberal, a centrist, or a conservative Democrat? Mr. Williams, what kind of a Democrat are you?
Yeah, I consider myself a progressive Democrat. Most of my policies are in the progressive film of things. For example, Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, and everything like that. However, I do have a streak of populism because my plan of attack is direct democracy. And so I'm trying to give the power back to the people, and their majority is going to be my vote in DC. And so I'm always going to support my constituents.
All right, Mr. Webster, what kind of Democrat are you? And don't say a coach's Democrat. All right, just
No,
what
an
kind
American
of Democrat are you?
an American Democrat. It depends the issue, right? Like right now, for the first time since 1946, our debt supersedes our GDP. We can't sustain that kind of debt going forward. So we have to be responsible physically. But at the same time, I have been endorsed by the Democratic Progressive Party of Florida. I have been endorsed by the Democratic Environmental Party or Caucus of Florida. I've also been endorsed by the Democratic Hispanic Caucus of Florida. So my views are very wide, and it depends on whatever is best, not only for our district, this state, and this country, because when we go up there, we represent all three, and we have to do what's right for all three of those.
All right, Mr. Pericola, what kind of Democrat are you?
A Democrat that we haven't seen here in Central Florida in a long time, one that can win. And I think actually reaching out to people that disagree with us maybe on some issues. I've grown up here. A lot of the people that I grew up with voted for Donald Trump. What can we say to those people and independents that's going to bring them along to vote for a change? I'm extremely proud, since we're talking endorsements. You know, we've been able to put together a broad coalition of people, from Mayor Buddy Dyer, which I'm very proud of. He's a legend. He's a visionary. Senator Bracy Davis, who is another legend in this community. Representative Rita Harris, and national folks too, like Congressman Jim McGovern, who's led on food insecurity issues. All of them combined not only have the experience and a pulse of this area, but what it takes to win, and that's why I'm exceptionally proud to have their support.
All right. Yeah, this next question you might find to be kind of unusual because it's really a state issue, but I feel like in the end it really isn't a state issue. So here are some staggering numbers. 4.9 billion in year one, 8.8 billion in year two, 46 billion in the first 5 years. Those are all of the dollars that will not go to local governments if voters pass the property tax cut that is on the November ballot. Why am I asking congressional candidates that? Well, I guess my question is, if this passes, are you concerned, and how would you handle it, that the federal government is going to be the one that's going to be asked by local cities and towns in Florida to provide more grant money, to provide any kind of dollars to make up those lost property tax dollars? So let's start with Mr. Pericola. Are you voting for or against it? And explain why. And then also, as someone who may go to Congress, are you worried about, you know, the hand being out in Florida saying, help me, help me, help me?
Well, and we in Florida tend to turn down some federal dollars, which is also a critical mistake, and we can address later. I will vote against, and having represented Volusia County and worked on behalf of interests here in Florida, there isn't enough money to begin with. So if you start cutting, where does that money come from? I assure you it's not going to be the federal government. They're cutting any which way they can, as they did in the big beautiful bill, and every opportunity they get. So I would say if they're expecting it from the federal government, good luck. And those that we need to support are police officers, firefighters. This is a direct cut on them, and people should understand that. It sounds great, but it's actually really bad for the voter, and it's bad for those that protect us in our communities.
All right, Mr. Williams, you voting for it, against it, and what do you think is going to be the fallout, coming in the way of the federal government if the state is lacking dollars to run local cities and counties?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm voting against it. And I believe that it's just going to harm our communities right now. And I actually don't think it's just a local level, because I think as a federal legislator, we need to work with the state and local levels as well. And that's actually why I'm partnered up with the Braver Angels, which is a bipartisan group that is actually focused on this. And I'm actually helping them create a whole entire educational website about this right now, where it's going to explain exactly what happens if you vote for it, yes and no, and then give you 4 different solutions. So the one that we're trying to push is that people vote no on it. And if it does pass, then my next suggestion down the line is a referendum that still funds our firefighters, our police, and our library systems.
Mr. Webster, same question. You going to vote for it, against it, and why?
Against it. I'm a no. Why? We have counties like Miami-Dade, Broward, Orange County, Hillsborough. We will not flourish, but we will survive. Dixie County and other small counties will not survive this. It will be lethal to them. because of they don't generate the money that the bigger counties do. So it is imperative that this bill does not get passed. It will also only save the average between $1,000 and $2,000 a year. That is nothing compared to the damage it will do, and it will be very hard for the counties that do survive to flourish and grow and prosper. And there's a lot of reasons why that will happen, but mostly it's because of the small counties that I'm voting no.
Okay. Let's talk about transportation. I had a chance to be in the Claremont, Groveland area just a few weeks ago, and I would say that the development is startling. And of course, we have major roads that go through District 11, 441, just to name one of them. What is your promise to the people who are constantly finding themselves in gridlock, especially going north and south in the central part of Central Florida, if you were elected, as far as either bringing money back? Not sure what the answer is, but the people that we talk to seem to think that the traffic is just getting worse and the roads are not expanding along with it. Mr. Williams.
I think that's one of the main issues for Florida, that we're one of the donor states. So we actually give, I think, $1 and we get 94 cents back, I think it is.
That actually changed in the last few years, but yeah, I would say that can there be enough money for all the roads you want? I think most people would tell you no.
Right. And I think we should make sure that we get all that money back here, because I don't think people kind of take into account our explosive population growth over the last couple of years. And we have so many more people living here. And not only that, but we have 130 million tourists driving on our roads that don't pay for them. So we need to make sure that we're actually funding them correctly. And I think that's working with the local state levels, the community, city councils, city commissioners, and along those lines to make sure that we do that. The one thing I don't want to do is I don't want to just keep expanding the roads, because wider roads just means more traffic. And then we are giving up environment land for just more traffic on those roads.
All right, Mr. Webster, do you have any suggestions, thoughts, solutions to the growing traffic problems right in the heart of District 11?
We should have been more vision oriented and invested in mass transit years ago, like 30 years ago. I don't believe that we pay enough money into the mass transit. We are way behind in every city in the country as far as mass transit in the Orlando metropolitan area. An elevated train would probably be the best solution, but that's a 20-year plan. Right now, we just need to be able to concentrate our growth outside of urban sprawl and concentrate it more towards the cities themselves.
Mr. Pericola, people are seeing that solution materialize itself in more recent years in toll roads, and they don't like that either. What's the answer?
Well, let me avoid toll roads for a minute and just go back to Mayor Dyer, who, again, is a visionary. And Brightline, I've not been on it, but everybody says it's one of the most amazing modes of transport in the state. I've spent part of my career working on Sunrail, and that's had fits and starts as well, but it's the right idea. And I think we need to listen to people that are trying to bring us federal dollars on issues like that. I do think it is a bit of a mistake to just look at donor versus donee state, because it's not necessarily an apples to apples comparison, and I think we should be careful with that. I think it's wrong what we're seeing now, that FEMA is being withheld from blue states, and we should look at ourselves as individuals. We're one country, and if we're going to succeed as a country, as we always have for the last 250 years, we should have that in mind. It's not as simple as saying we don't get back as much as this state, because we get it back in other ways, whether it's hurricane disaster relief or other forms.
I want to add 30 seconds to everybody else. I want you to go back to the mass transit part of that, and I'll give the other two of you a chance to comment on this as well. Is it too late for some kind of rail mass transit right through the heart of District 11, Mr. Pericola?
I don't think it's ever too late. I mean, you look at the rest of the world, they're constantly building and improving, so we should not have that view.
Okay, Mr. Webster?
It's not too late. We're just behind the curve. The light rail goes north and south for the majority of it, but our growth in the metropolitan area is east and west. And our district lays west of Orlando itself. And there's no mass transportation other than buses, which may take an employee from Winter Garden over an hour and a half to get to Disney. That's not acceptable. That's a 3-hour round trip for an 8-hour shift. That's an 11-hour day. It's not too late. We're just behind the power curve.
Mr. Williams.
Yeah, I also believe it's not too late. But the more we wait, the more expensive it's going to be. And I can also relate to what Royal was saying, because my partner did used to take the bus to work. And there was not actually a direct route. And so he always had to take his bicycle to get the last little bit of it, because it's just not a complete service. And without that end-to-end, we're not really doing anyone any good.
Okay. I want to wrap up by asking one more question. As we're recording this debate, we're at the beginning to middle of hurricane season, okay? It's that time of year that all of us dread because we're not sure what kind of storms we're going to have. A couple of developments have been happening in recent years that have been troubling to most people. Well, number one, flood insurance has gone up. And number two, FEMA funding is constantly on the edge of running out when we get to the end of each month. It's almost like we have to have 5 straight years of no hurricanes for that fund to be able to build up. So my question with you, Mr. Williams, we'll start with you. What is the most important thing to address when it comes to FEMA funding as it applies to Florida, which is Hurricane Central?
Yeah, I believe we have to make sure FEMA is fully funded. And right now, they're putting in place different mechanisms in order to kind of slow down the process. And I did make sure that if we need that money, we need it instantly. So right now, I think Christy Nomes actually put that together where anything over $100,000 had to come across her desk and sign it. That just slows down the whole process. And in disaster relief, time is money, and time is also lives.
All right, Mr. Pericola, same question.
We're all Americans and we should all be protected, and that's why the federal government is there in many ways. It needs to be fully funded and it needs to stop being politicized. It shouldn't be something that's used as a tool by both sides to beat up on each other. And the same, and I'll keep going back to it, with Social Security and Medicare. It should not be a political pawn or something that's used as such. It should be something that is understood, that is protected, and is part of who we are as Americans.
All right, FEMA funding, Mr. Webster. How do we shore that up and make sure it's there when we need it?
I agree with both Dan and James. It needs to be fully funded, but it also needs to be preemptive. Years ago, when a hurricane was about to hit, FEMA would come in and set up and be ready to write checks right after the hurricanes happened. They would go to Camping World or stadium, and they would set up there, and people could go in there and say, this is what's happened, and they could file their claims there. FEMA now, you could go 6 months, a year, 18 months, and not get any money back. And it is politicized, and it shouldn't be. We're all Americans.
All right. We've come to the time where we will have closing statements. You each will have a minute. Mr. Williams, 1 minute, please.
Right. Hi, everybody. I think I'm the best candidate for this seat for a couple different reasons. My background is in education and technology. 2 of those underserved up in the House of Representatives. Out of the 435 members, there's only 25 with an educational background, and 5 of them with any kind of technological degree. And we're trying to make sure that those are the forefront that is going to make America great. So my plan of attack is direct democracy, which gives you a direct voice up in DC. So you're not going to be hearing from me every 2 weeks. You're going to be hearing from me all the time. And if you want a voice up in DC directly, then please visit my website at danwilliamsforcongress.com, and I would really appreciate your vote.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Webster, 1 minute, please.
First, I'd like to thank Dan and James for being here and for West 2 hosting us here. This is a very important election. I believe that November 3rd is important across the entire country. We need to send a message that the MAGA movement cannot go forward and hurt Americans. We need to make Americans a priority and America first, not a slogan, but an actual way of processing things. I believe that I am the best candidate. I am a veteran and a teacher. Been in the community. I know how people are hurting, and I want to be able to reach across to the independents and Republicans in District 11 because we need them to win on November 3rd to say that I understand what they are going through, and we need change in District 11, we need change in Florida, and we need change in the United States. One of the 3 of us will be on that ballot on November 3rd, and one of the three of us needs to go to Washington, D.C. If it's not me, then one of these 2 gentlemen. Why do I say that? Because it's more important who wins on November 3rd than whoever wins on August 18th.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Pericola.
that as well. I think Roy was right.
Okay, all right, thank you. Mr. Pericola, go ahead, 1 minute, please.
No, I appreciate being here as well, and especially in the West studio. I began my career working for a true public servant, the legendary Bob Graham, and he taught me at a very young age that you show up, you listen, and you do the work. We are so far from that today. We have a lot of performative clowns in Washington that chase clicks, likes, and building their brand, and none of them are about solving issues. I give you my solemn promise that if I'm given the opportunity with this sacred responsibility, I will judge every day based on what I've done for my constituents in a district that's had an absentee landlord for over 20 years now.
Well, thank you all for joining us. These are your Democratic candidates in District 11 for Congress, and one of them will obviously come away victorious on August 18th and then go to the general election. But we really appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us and with the voters. And this is Commitment 2026 and West 2 News. Thanks for watching.